That's the first thing you notice when you've been alive as long as I have. Every room has a smell that tells you its true purpose. A kitchen smells of comfort or of loneliness, depending on who cooks there. A bedroom smells of love or of obligation. This office, Mr. Sterling's office on the 14th floor, with its mahogany paneling and its window that looks out over a city going about its perfectly ordinary Tuesday, smells of consequence. Of decisions that cannot be unmade. I find it quite pleasant, actually. My cardigan is the color of a late April lilac. I chose it deliberately this morning, the way a general chooses a uniform before a campaign. I pressed it myself last night, standing at the ironing board at 11 o'clock, running the iron in slow, careful strokes. My housekeeper, Maria, would have done it. I did not want Maria to do it. Some garments you press yourself. Some mornings require that kind of ceremony. The leather chair they've given me is high-backed and very dark, the color of dried tobacco. My feet, in their sensible low heels, rest flat on the Persian rug. I sit straight. I have always sat straight. My mother told me that a woman who slouches is a woman who has already surrendered. And whatever else I've done in 92 years, I have not surrendered. Not once. Not to anyone. Mr. Sterling is arranging papers on his desk with the excessive care of a man who is nervous and trying very hard not to appear so. He is 61 years old. I've known him since he had hair. He keeps glancing at me over the rim of his reading glasses, the way one glances at a stove that may or may not be lit. Quick, sideways, hoping not to get burned. I don't acknowledge it. I let him arrange. On the desk, between us, is the document. I don't need to read it again. I dictated every clause. I know its architecture the way I know the floor plan of the house I've lived in for 47 years. I could walk it blindfolded, in the dark, and never touch a wall. The amendment to last will and testament of Eleanor Rose Vance. 11 pages. Very clean. Very final. The fountain pen is lying to the right of the document on a small silver tray. It's a Mont Blanc, black resin and gold nib. It was Harold's pen. Harold signed his first business contract with this pen in 1971, in a room not entirely unlike this one. I thought it appropriate to use it today. Harold would have understood. Harold, whatever his faults, always understood the value of a meaningful gesture. I reach forward and I pick it up. The weight of it is satisfying in a way that is difficult to explain to someone who has never made a truly irreversible decision. It's not heavy, exactly. It's present. It has gravity. It knows what it's about to do. In the window behind Mr. Sterling's left shoulder, I can see my reflection suspended against the Tuesday skyline. White hair, neatly pinned. Wire-rimmed glasses. The lavender cardigan. Pearl brooch at the collar. The small one. Not the ostentatious cluster my daughter-in-law once called charming, in the voice people use when they mean old-fashioned and soon-to-be mine. I look exactly like what they all believe me to be. A gentle, fading woman. A formality in a cardigan. A waiting room. The woman in that window is about to make 3 people very, very poor. She looks perfectly calm.
He was always different, even as a small child.
She is perfectly
he saw the world
calm.
in a way we couldn't comprehend.
Mrs. Vance?
Early, you see, with certain
Mr.
tendencies.
Sterling says, and clears his throat. I do want to confirm, one final time, that you understand the full scope. William. I say his first name quietly. The way you'd set down a cup of tea. Soft. Definitive. Pour us both some water, please, and then let's not insult each other. He pours the water. I hold the pen. Outside, the city continues its perfectly ordinary Tuesday. And I think, As I have thought every single morning for the past 4 months, since last Sunday's lunch, since the moment I watched them argue about a house they do not yet own, over a meal they did not cook for a woman they stopped seeing years ago. I think it is a remarkable thing to be so completely free. Let me tell you about my children. My eldest is Richard, 64 years old. He has his father's jaw, and absolutely none of his father's discipline. Richard has been starting businesses since he was 37. Not finishing them, starting them. There is a difference, and Richard has never quite grasped it. There was the vineyard in Sonoma that produced 3 barrels of wine, so astringent it stripped the enamel from your teeth. There was the technology company. He could never explain to me precisely what it did, which I always found telling. There was the import business, the consulting firm, the real estate venture that collapsed so quietly it barely made a sound, like a souffle fallen in an empty kitchen. Harold funded all of it. I watched Harold fund all of it, and I said nothing. Because in those years I was still practicing the particular silence that wives of that generation were trained to perform. I regret that silence. I regret it the way you regret leaving a window open during a storm. Not dramatically, but with a dull, persistent awareness of what it cost you. Richard calls me every Sunday. Every Sunday without exception. He asks how I'm feeling. And then, within 4 minutes, he begins talking about liquidity. He has the voice of a man performing concern. It lands in the room like a prop. My daughter is Catherine. She is 62, and she is the most dangerous of the 3 because she is the most polished. Catherine learned early that presentation is its own currency. She dresses beautifully. She speaks beautifully. She sends flowers on my birthday, always white lilies, always with a card in her own handwriting. And the handwriting is lovely, curved and deliberate, the handwriting of a woman who practices. Last spring she came for Sunday lunch and I watched her. She didn't know I was watching. She never knows. None of them ever know, because they stopped truly looking at me years ago. I watched her pick up my silver teapot, the one Harold brought back from Edinburgh in 1963. She held it in both hands, just for a moment, and she turned it over. Slowly. The way an appraiser turns something over, calculating its weight, its age, its likely value at a reputable auction house. She set it back down when she heard my step in the hallway. She smiled at me with every single tooth. Her perfume that afternoon was suffocating. Something expensive and floral that she bought the previous month, with $3,000 she had borrowed from me to cover what she called a temporary cash flow issue. I have still not been repaid. I do not expect to be. My youngest is Thomas. He is 55. Thomas is the only one of my children for whom I still feel something close to tenderness, which is precisely why he has cost me the most. He has a sweetness to him, a genuine boyish sweetness that I believe is entirely real, and that he has never once successfully leveraged in service of his own life. Thomas has a gift for charm and an equal gift for self-destruction. He has been gambling since he was 19. Not casually, not socially, but with the focused, joyless dedication of a man conducting an experiment he already knows the results of. He visits me when his debts are due. I can tell, always, because he brings me things. A small orchid from the shop on 5th. A box of those dark chocolates I mentioned liking once, years ago, that he has remembered ever since and deployed strategically. He sits across from me and he holds my hand, and he's warm and present in a way the other 2 never are. And I know, I have always known, that the warmth is real, even if the timing is calculated. That is the cruelest thing about Thomas. He actually loves me. He loves me and he is drowning. And he keeps reaching for me as though I'm something to grip, rather than someone to know. Those are my children. Now let me tell you about last Sunday. I cooked. I always cook when they come, which is less often than it used to be, and more often than any of us are comfortable with. I made a roast, carrots and potatoes. A trifle for dessert, because Richard once mentioned, 17 years ago, that he loved trifle. I set the table properly. Linen cloth. The good china. Not the silver teapot. I keep that in the cabinet now, out of Catherine's sightline. Fresh flowers from the garden. Small and unassuming. The kind of flowers that don't announce themselves. They arrived separately, which they always do, because arriving together would require coordination. And coordination requires a degree of mutual regard they no longer quite manage. The lunch was what it always is. The surface of it was perfectly fine. There was passing of dishes and pouring of wine and the performance of family. The laugh tracks and the callbacks to old stories, and the careful maintenance of the fiction that we are people who know and like each other. I ate very little. My appetite has been smaller these past years, which they attribute to age, which is not entirely wrong, but is not entirely right either. What I have less appetite for is pretense. It fills you up. It leaves no room. I was cutting a piece of carrot when the fork slipped. It fell against the plate with a small, clear sound. A single note, like the strike of a tuning fork. I looked up. Nobody looked back. Richard was explaining to Catherine, with the energy of a man who's explained this before, and expects to explain it again, that the vacation house, Harold's vacation house, the one on the lake in Vermont, which has been in this family for 31 years, that the vacation house should be sold and the proceeds divided because maintaining it was, and I remember the word precisely, impractical. Catherine disagreed, not because she loves the house, but because she wants it. And wanting it and Richard selling it are incompatible outcomes. Thomas was on his phone beneath the table, which he believed I couldn't see. I could see. My fork lay on the plate. Nobody had noticed it fall. And in that moment, in the 15 seconds that followed that small, clear sound that nobody heard, something in me that had been bending for years simply stopped bending. Not with anger, not with grief, with something much quieter. A kind of clarity, like a window wiped clean. I looked at these three people at my table, eating food I'd cooked, arguing about a house that is not yet theirs, and I understood, with the simple final certainty of a woman who has been patient for a very long time, that I'm not their mother in this room.
Too soft.
I am a
was
balance
afraid of
sheet.
making them too hard.
I
you
am a
see,
line
and leaving
item.
them with all that scar tissue.
I am the last administrative hurdle between them and what they have already, in their minds, already spent. I picked up my fork. I finished my carrot. I said nothing. 4 days
It made
later, I
everything
called
feel
William
safe.
Sterling.
It was so
Here
easy
is what
to
I want you
cushion
to understand
the bottom
about
of
money
every
and
fall.
children, because it is the thing I got profoundly, catastrophically wrong. And I was not a woman who got things wrong easily. I thought I was giving them roots. I gave them cages. When you remove all friction from a life, you do not produce a person. You produce something else. Something that has the shape of a person, but lacks the essential interior structure that difficulty builds. I watched it happen slowly, across decades, the way you watch a garden overtake itself when you overwater it. Everything grew too fast and too soft, and too dependent on conditions it didn't earn. Richard never had to survive a failed business because Harold and I, were always there to absorb the failure. So he never developed the scar tissue that teaches you when to stop. Catherine never had to reckon with the actual value of things, because things were always provided. So she learned to calculate worth but never to feel it. Thomas never had to face the bottom of a debt because the bottom was always, eventually, cushioned. So he never feared it enough to stop digging. I kept pruning them, kept them small, kept them shaped, kept them from the wildness that makes something real. They are bonsai trees, my children. Beautiful in their way. Decorative. Completely incapable of surviving an open forest. That is my legacy. That is what I built alongside the fortune. And the fortune, I now understand, was never the gift. The fortune was the damage. William has stopped pretending to arrange papers. He is watching me now, directly, with the expression of a man who has witnessed a number of remarkable things in 30 years of estate law, but is not entirely certain he has witnessed anything quite like this. I find his attention respectful. He is a good man. He has earned his discomfort. I uncap the pen. The nib touches the first signature line, and the sound it makes. That particular scratch of a fountain pen on heavy legal paper. That sound that is somehow both delicate and permanent is the best sound I've heard in years. Better than the roast. Better than the lilies. Better than the Sunday performance of family. I sign my name, Eleanor Rose Vance. The same signature I've been making for 68 years. Unhurried. Exact. I move to the second line. The third. The fourth. Each one a door closing. Each one lighter than the last. Where is the money going? I imagine you want to know that.
I've always appreciated
People always want to know that part, as though the destination matters more than the decision. There is a shelter on the east side of the city. A small one. They take dogs that have been waiting too long. The ones passed over for younger, easier animals. The ones whose window is closing. I have visited it 3 times in the past year. Nobody performs for the dogs. Nobody calculates their value or argues over who gets to keep them. The dogs simply need, and the people there simply help. And the transaction is completely, refreshingly honest. The remainder goes to a young woman named Isabel, who is 26 years old, and is studying environmental law, and who waited on my table last February at a restaurant where I was having lunch alone. She brought me hot water for my tea without being asked, and when I spilled a small amount on my sleeve, she handed me her own napkin. Her personal napkin, not a restaurant one. Without comment, without performance, without a single glance at anything I might be worth.
Every struggle, it was worth
I asked her her
They
name.
are everything to me.
I asked her what she was studying. I listened to the answer.
Money is
I
a
had
very
William look
effective
into her
tool.
quietly.
I
She is
always
exactly
watch
who
what
she
people
appeared to
do
be.
with their hands when
She has
they
no
think
idea what is
you
coming.
aren't looking.
I think she will
Some
use it
people's
well.
hands just reach for the
I
wrong
think she
things,
will
don't
feel
they?
it.
But
Actually
these
feel
hands,
its weight,
these hands
its
offer
responsibility,
something more.
the seriousness of it, in a way that
I
my
never told
children,
anyone
who
about
have
this
never had to
before.
feel anything,
I
no
trust
longer
you.
can.
They were the most
I set
precious
down the
gifts.
pen.
Looking
William
back
exhales.
now, at all
I
of us
put the cap
together,
back on the
it
Mont
feels
Blanc.
like just yesterday.
I set it on the silver tray precisely where I found it. Outside, the city is still there. Still Tuesday. Cars moving, people moving. Everyone with somewhere to be, and something to do, and a life that has not yet fully revealed itself to them. I reach up and adjust my pearl brooch. Just slightly. It had been sitting perhaps 1 degree off-center, and I prefer it straight. Now then, I want to leave you with something, because I think that is why you're here. You're here because somewhere in your life, in your family, in the particular arithmetic of your relationships, you recognize something of what I've described. The waiting, the calculation, the slow conversion of love into logistics. Money is a very effective truth serum. You do not need to give it to someone to see what it will do to them. You only need to let them know it exists. You only need to let them understand that one day it will be distributed. And then you watch.
Quality of attention,
You watch what they do with
whether
their
it is
hands
given
when
to
they think
you
you aren't looking.
or to what surrounds you.
You watch whose
Every
names they
photo,
remember
every
and
teacup,
whose they
every
forget.
memory. This is the life
You
I
watch the
built.
quality of their
Nothing
attention,
missing, nothing to apologize
whether it is
for.
given to you or to what surrounds you. You listen to the questions they ask, and more importantly, you listen to the questions they never ask. The ones about who you are rather than what you have. That is the test.
I'm not angry.
It has no official
Not
name.
anymore.
It runs
It's
all
been
the
a long
time.
time coming. But the
Most people
feeling is
fail it
simply
without
gone.
knowing they are taking it. I know what my children would do with what I built. I know because I watched them practice for decades. I know because love, real love, the love that sees a person rather than a position, does not evaporate when a fork drops at the table. It does not evaporate when there is nothing left to calculate. Real love notices the sound. My children have not loved me that way in a very long time. Perhaps they
I
never
hope
learned
it
how.
is.
Perhaps
Just
I
enough.
made it too easy for them to love me in the other way. The way that is really just management.
And then I hope they grow.
Really just waiting. Really
wish
just
is
patience
genuine.
dressed up in holiday visits and
always
birthday
was.
lilies. And the performance of family over a roast that nobody truly tasted. I am not angry. I want to be very clear about that. I am not a bitter woman. Bitterness requires a belief that things should have been otherwise. I do not have that belief. I have a clear understanding of what occurred, of what my choice is built, and of what I'm able to do, even now, at 92, even in a lavender cardigan in a mahogany office on an ordinary Tuesday, to make something true out of what remains. I smoothed something. That is all. I took the inheritance I was leaving and I made it honest. The dogs will eat. The girl named Isabel will study. And Richard and Catherine and Thomas will learn, perhaps for the first time, what it feels like when the cushion is no longer there. What it feels like to touch the ground. I hope it teaches them something. I hope it hurts just enough. And then I hope they grow.